Hi guys, my name is Mr. Lead. Today we're going to go over a few brief things to do with body coordination. We're going to go over the endocrine system, and we're going to go over a big term in terms of body coordination. We're going to look at homeostasis, and what does homeostasis mean? All right, so let's first start with the term homeostasis. All right, so here's a really basic definition. Homeostasis is the process of maintaining a constant internal environment that is ideal for cells and may include pH, temperature, water levels, and glucose concentration in the blood. What the heck does that mean? Okay, so basically what homeostasis is it's the management, or it's the management of an internal environment, and it's and the way that an internal environment is managed to make sure it stays the same. So think about your body. You have your body has a body temperature. Say it's around 36 degrees Celsius or 37 or so. So say your body temperature is 36 degrees Celsius. When you walk into a cold room that is, say, below zero, your body temperature, as long as you're not sick, your body temperature is still going to stay at 36 degrees Celsius, even though you're in a really cold room. And if you walk into a really hot room that's like 50 degrees Celsius, your body temperature is still going to stay the same. This is homeostasis. It's the way that the body can maintain certain levels despite its surrounding environments. So it's the way we maintain our temperature, our water levels, our glucose concentration, our pH. All these features inside our body need to stay the same. Now, homeostasis is managed not just by the endocrine system, which we're about to talk about, but it's also managed by the nervous system. But let's talk more about the endocrine system because we haven't talked much about that yet. So what is the endocrine system? The endocrine system is just the summary of all the glands in our body. And glands are something that secrete hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers. So we've talked about the nervous system and how the nervous system involves nerves, and they send electrical messages down nerves. And those messages are usually very quick, rapid, and the response is very quick and just pretty much immediate. Hormones, on the other hand, they take a lot longer to take into effect. Sometimes they can take up to an hour to be released and spread throughout the whole body, and then sometimes the effect of the hormones can last for hours or days or weeks. So the way hormones work is, remember, hormones are just chemicals. They are chemicals released by something called glands. What triggers glands? Well, glands, remember, are one of the two types of effectors that are on the ends of motor neurons. So motor neurons will either trigger glands to release hormones or will trigger muscles to move. So hormones are chemicals, and these hormones don't actually react with any cell and every cell in the body. They only react with certain cells, target cells. So say, for example, you have, adrenaline. Adrenaline, funnily enough, it counts as one of the rare chemicals that counts as both a neurotransmitter and a hormone. And say you've got adrenaline that's being released, not every single cell in the body is going to react to the adrenaline. Only cells with the right receptors for that hormone, for that adrenaline hormone, are going to react to the cell and have the message being sent to them. So what are the major glands that secrete these chemicals? What are the glands that secrete hormones? Well, firstly, we've got to understand why are hormones secreted. Hormones are usually secreted when the body realizes that there is some sort of balance, that there's something that's imbalanced in our body systems. Our internal environment is constantly being measured and checked up upon by the hypothalamus. That's a part of the brain. We did mention that last week. The hypothalamus is a part of the brain that's right in the center of the brain. So the hypothalamus is constantly checking the internal environment of your body. You have sensory neurons that are not just on the ends of your fingers and sensing the outside environment, you actually have sensory neurons on the inside of your body that are detecting the pH levels, the water levels, the glucose levels of the inside of your body. Now, the hypothalamus, when it senses that there needs to be a change, it will tell the pituitary gland to secrete hormones. The pituitary gland is a really key gland. It's basically the boss of the endocrine system. Because what you got to know is that not all glands are controlled by nerves. Some glands are actually controlled by other glands. Sometimes you have a gland, in this case the pituitary gland, that releases chemical hormones to tell other glands to start releasing more hormones. So you've got a gland that releases hormones to tell another gland to release hormones. That's just the way it works. But basically the pituitary gland does that. It's the boss hormone, and it will send messages to all the other chemical messages to all the other hormones. Let's take a closer look at some of the other glands here. We've got the thyroid, which we'll talk about in a bit, the pancreas. We got adrenal glands that are just here above the kidneys. So when the pituitary gland sends messages to the adrenal gland will then send adrenaline throughout the body, which will make us give us a fight or flight response, will make us ready to move. We've also got glands in the ovaries in females, and our testes are actually a type of gland, and they're in males. So in the females, they produce estrogen, which help regulate menstrual cycles, and in testes, our sexual activity is also measured by testosterone. Testosterone is also good for other things. Anyway, so let's come back to this term of homeostasis and see an example of homeostasis in action. Let's look at homeostasis and how it's used by how the endocrine system facilitates homeostasis in controlling blood sugar. So when you eat food has sugar. The majority of food has sugar. Now that sugar, the fundamental particles that make up sugar are glucose. So when you eat sugar, you've got lots of glucose in your bloodstream. And that's a good thing, because glucose gives our cells energy. But we don't actually want too much glucose. If you have too much glucose, then your body is going to see that there's too much glucose, and will have to start storing it away and let the glucose become fat. And so then your body will get fat. But if you have too little glucose, then your body is going to start, and then your body is going to not put enough glucose away into cells. So glucose levels need to be managed by hormones. And these hormones are secreted by the pancreas. So when the pancreas senses that there is too much glucose, it sends out a hormone called insulin to tell cells, hey, there's a lot of glucose. Start taking the glucose into your cell and start making this glucose into energy. Otherwise, all this glucose is going to become fat. And so that's what happens when there's too much glucose. But if there's too little glucose, then the pancreas releases a different hormone called glucagon. And that tells the liver, I'm going to need you to take this glucagon and start just manufacturing more glucose. We're in a desperate situation where we need more energy right now. So liver, start making more glucose. Yes, I told you at the start that the liver actually has quite a few jobs. Anyway, so if you take away one of these hormones, say, for example, people with diabetes, type 1 diabetes, that's a genetic disease, they aren't able to produce this insulin, which means that the glucose is not able to go into the cells. And the cells, that means that the cells, glucose is not being able to be taken up by the cells, and therefore people with type 1 diabetes don't have a lot of energy. You need to take insulin shots because your pancreas is not making insulin for you. But if you have type 2 diabetes, then there's a problem with the receptor cells there's insulin there, and that's all fine, but the receptor cells are not recognizing the insulin. And so therefore, the glucose is just going to keep building up, and insulin shots are going to do you no good, and then you're going to end up turning all that glucose into fat. That's type 2 diabetes, and that's usually an environmental disease. Anyway, if you have too much, so the whole idea here is that the levels of glucose is managed to be at the same amount, like at a homeostasis. So if the levels of glucose rise a bit, then these chemicals, these hormones, are going to control the systems so that those levels can go back down. And if they go back down, the chemicals will control things so that the levels go back up. That's homeostasis with blood sugar. Let's look at homeostasis when it comes to controlling body temperatures. Now, you might have heard that animals can either be warm-blooded or cold-blooded. Now, unlearn those terms because cold-blooded and warm-blooded aren't very scientific, and we don't like them nowadays because they kind of imply that animals have different temperatures, temperatured bloods, which is not quite accurate. Instead, warm-blooded animals are now called endotherms. An endothermic animal is an animal that's able to able to control its body temperature through cellular respiration, through metabolism, through just burning and making energy in cells. But organisms that are cold-blooded, or ectothermic is the right word to use, these organisms don't get their heat from cellular respiration. So instead, they have to get it from sitting in the sun, from their external environment. That's how body temperature is managed generally by us. But there are, of course, we can come into situations where we're getting really sick and our cellular respiration rates are not at a good rate. And maybe we're in a situation where we're really, really hot or really, really cold. So we need other ways to manage our temperature. So this is where we have more homeostasis in action. We have these things called feedback loops. If you end up getting really cold, your body starts sending hormones to tell sweat glands to if we could start getting hot, your body starts telling hormones to tell sweat glands to start sweating so that you start cooling down a bit. But if you're really cold, then your body starts saying, hey, shiver more so that we can warm up, and then you warm up. Another way that your body warms up is the hypothalamus tells the thyroid, or tells the pituitary glands to tell the thyroid, which is a gland in your neck, to start increasing the metabolic rate in cells, start increasing and getting more cellular respiration up. Once you get more cellular respiration, your body is doing more work, which means your body is going to warm up. So that's what happens when it's cold. You want your body to do more work and warm up. But if it's too warm, you want your body to cool down a bit and do less work. So again, the main thing you've got to be seeing here is that we got these patterns where the body is constantly monitoring itself and then saying, all right, let's tune these levels down a bit. And then it monitors itself and it's like, all right, let's tune our levels up a bit. The last way I'm going to mention that we control our temperature is by vasodilation. So I've mentioned shivering already. The last way is by something called vasoconstriction and vasodilation. This is where we try and if we're really cold, we're going to see our blood vessels constrict. This means that there is less surface area of our blood vessels touching the sides of our skin, which means that we're seeing that our body trying to hold onto as much heat as possible. But if we're really hot, that's why you start seeing veins pop out when you're hot, because your blood vessels are going to dilate. They're going to get bigger because they're trying to get out as much heat as possible. They're trying to create a higher surface area to spread out that heat. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways that our body manages our homeostasis of temperature. And we see homeostasis in the way our body manages blood sugar and many other different ways as well. Hopefully you understood the term of homeostasis and you understood there's multiple ways of managing body temperature. And hopefully you understand what the endocrine system is as well now. Thanks for watching.